different types of clocks used in ancient time. Sundial. They were one of the first instruments to be used for dividing up a day. It was used to divide up the day from sunrise to sunset to 12 equal parts. But as the name tells, this clock was only useful in the daytime. It used the shadow of an object exposed to the sun, and as the sun went through its progressions throughout the day, it ultimately cast the shadow of the object to move and ultimately tell time. The sundial is considered the very first device that was used by the ancient people to figure out the time. The world's oldest sundial is the Valley of King, which dates back to 1500 BC. But some say that the history of sundials started way before that. There were different types of sundials that were used. Some made of stones and other made of wood. Water clock. One of the very first devices used to measure time was the water clock back in the 5th century BC. To elaborate, some amount of water was put in a vessel that was allowed to escape through a hole in the bottom. The time determined varied according to the size of the vessel and the hole made at the bottom. It was all before we had the liberty of wearing fancy clocks on our wrist, or even the scientific knowledge to make the atomic clock, which helps function the internet as well as GPS system properly. The very first things were sundials, which made it possible to navigate through time, but they only worked in the daytime. So Egyptians thought of making a time measurement device using the most common liquid around water. They were educated enough to know that as the level of water in a container drops, the outflow of the stream coming out of the hole made will also drop. The candle clocks. This came to be in China in near 500 AD. An example of how it worked is that as the candle burnt down whilst the passing of the day, the time would be determined by seeing how much the candle has already burnt and which mark it has crossed. Then came the mechanical clocks in the 14th century, which soon became the standard. It started off by having a weight hanging from a pulley that turned the geared the single hand, which indicated the hours as well as the portions of the hour. Then came the spring wound clocks in the 15th century. This was around 1400 AD when coiled springs began to be used in clocks, and as the most of the clocksmiths were also clockmakers, hence they were simultaneously introduced in clocks too. The sand glass, probably the most famous of ancient clocks, and there is a high chance you have at least seen it. The sand glass consists of two glass bulbs which are vertically connected with a narrow neck. The neck allows some amount of sand to pass through the upper glass to the lower glass. Usually the upper and lower glasses are exactly alike, so the sand glass would measure the exact same time regardless of its orientation. The first sand glass clock is said to have been made by a French monk named Lietpand during the 8th century AD. The sand glass clock is also known as the hourglass, as it could only tell when an hour was up. They were used to set off blocks of time, and hence they were all designed to measure 1 hour. Astronomical clocks. An astronomical clock is a type of clock that displays astronomical information to whoever that takes a glance. It tells information like the relative position of the sun the moon, and sometimes even major planets. The clock uses zodiacs to represent months. These zodiacs are represented inside the time dial. Also, to project the movement of the earth, the clock usually features the time dial in the center of the clock. The first mechanical clock that was created by Hissing in 723 AD was also an astronomical clock. The oldest functional astronomical clock is well over 600 years old and is named as the Prague astronomical clock. Most of the astronomical clocks out there have a 24-hour analog dial around the edge, and the current time is told by a picture of the sun or a ball at the end of the pointer. Pendulum clocks. This was a big jump in the clockwares when we talk about accuracy. This clock became popular through the famous scientist Galileo and was the most accurate type of clock till 1930. It was officially first invented by Christian Huygens. A pendulum is the main timekeeping element of a pendulum clock. Clock pendulums are usually made out of weights suspended on a wood rod or a metal rod. In better clocks, the weights are usually heavier as it increases the accuracy of a pendulum. The pendulum is kept in its momentum with the help of an escapement. Each time the pendulum swings through its center position, it releases one tooth of the escape wheel.